Welcome, everyone, to another broadcast of The Soul of the Everyman on the ArtistFirst Radio Network. Send us your questions and comments to dj@artistfirst.com. All past shows are in podcast form. You can find them at artistfirst.com. And now here they are, Michael and Margaret Lyons.
And thank you very much, Z-Man, because this is the day that we do the show. And I am Michael Lyons.
And I'm Margaret.
Yes, and we're trying to pony up some energy here because it's dark, it's cold, it was snowing in the morning, it's November. But we don't care.
Oh, okay.
Because we have fun doing this. We love you people.
Yeah.
And tonight's show is because we love you people. We decided to do a show on the wounded healer. This is a terrible, terrible segue. But you know, all my segues are terrible. So you'll be used to it by now. But in truth, we are going to talk about wounded healers because I'll say this, just as an observation, is you're one. Margaret is a wounded healer, and the evidence for that is multifold. But I'll just give a few examples. The best thing I can say is that Margaret has the ability to meet total strangers, and I think I've said this before, and within minutes have an intimate conversation at the depth of their pain, and connect with them on a level that years later they still will remember her, and sometimes come running over to her from the midst of a crowd, their hands outstretched saying, "Margaret!" And she goes, "Who the heck are you?" But it is a profound gift that you have to be able to connect with people at the heart level. And I think, in some ways all of us have that, but very few of us are courageous enough to exercise it at the level that is sometimes required. We all have our guards, if you will, and I won't go into that because we could spend all show talking about the guards people put up. But because of who you are, you courageously kind of throw those guards down, especially when you, and this is part of it, you sense the fact that these people need to speak about something. And when we were in the store, which we had the opportunity on a daily basis to meet with the public, this would happen nearly every time that I had ever been in the store with you, and of course many times when I wasn't, where somebody would come in and a very innocuous interchange, an innocuous conversation would become, in essence, sort of a life-changing event for that person, or at least an opportunity for them to open up about something which was troubling them. Sometimes a very important or a very significant thing that was troubling them, that they had to find a way to unburden themselves, or at least to find somebody to listen to. And all that aside, it exemplifies sort of a basic human quality, which you see rarely, but you do see it throughout society, of this idea of being able to witness and to listen and to help people heal. And our thesis tonight is that comes not from some sort of innate superpower, but from having been through it yourself, having been broken, been wounded, needed to heal, healed, and then those changes, those events change you to the point where you can then use this sort of, I hesitate to say aura, but it's sort of this ability to sense beyond the facade that everyone puts up. I'm okay. I'm fine. Everything's okay. No, you go right past all that and connect with their pain, because they recognize at some level below their facade, they recognize that this is a person I can talk to. And we just had an experience like that just several weeks ago. Yet another one, and then many, many. But it was significant. It was important. I won't talk about it directly here, but it was a significant, important experience that happened to us, but really to, I believe, you, and I just happened to be there, where we were listening to someone's really, really depths of pain, years-long pain that they were unable, perhaps, to express in any given way, in any other way, but in this one moment, and it was about an hour, we spent time listening to this person's pain and discussing it and helping them work through a couple of things. And then we parted as still as certainly as strangers, but yet there was an exchange of energy. And this cycle is extremely important down here. And now I'll shut up and let you talk.
Well, I think the fact that we are in a situation where isolation has become something very real to people that haven't even thought of it before.
The current situation. Yes.
Yes, where suddenly you can't make human-to-human contact anymore like you normally do. And the distractions are no longer there. For many people, their everyday routine has been abruptly ripped from them. And all these other responsibilities have been foisted on them with not necessarily the ability to solve whatever the problems may be. So the stress levels have gone through the roof. And the isolation, if you can't talk to someone about it, it weighs heavily upon you, because that becomes the only world that you know, which is at that point filled with, this is a major problem. So and that's kind of what is going on right now. When people have been dealing for great lengths of time with an issue that's broken their heart, it's very different. In terms of how do I say this? In how they carry on with what they do. You can see that they've basically pushed aside the little things that would normally bother you. Everyday things. It's like it's an annoyance, would be an annoyance, but it's like, well, what is that compared to my broken heart? And so, but they continue. That's where the courage comes in. They still continue, whether it is a new routine or trying to find a new routine, but they know that they need to push forward. That's all they know. And that kind of frequency speaks. I don't know how to describe it, but I'll do my best. It radiates out this longing, because there's a hole in your heart, or there's a broken portion of your heart, and you walk through life, or you do your everyday things, quote unquote, but you feel like there's no one else who understands what you're doing, because it takes so much effort to do that push forward. So when a person carries this, as you said, it's like they put on a certain type of outward face, but the internal, you can feel the hurt and the wounding.
Well, I think what you're describing is what you see.
Yes.
And that's exactly it. Tonight's tonight's topic is really the wounded healer, and I think if we go back a little bit, let's say we start ourselves off in life, and when we come here, I'll say this isn't actually true. When we come here, we're not wounded. We're born into this life with much of our memory, our present memory of the wounding that we perhaps went through before, has been removed from us. We're given a fresh start here each time that we come, and we don't have to come many times, but each time that we come, we're given a fresh start here because we're here for a different purpose, it's a different time. Many of us understand old souls and old souls bringing experience with them back from spirit, but if we come here, we're given the opportunity sort of as a newness, a new creation, a new embodiment. But life, the experience of life, will wound us, and all of us. Now, in being wounded, there is always, and we talked about this, I believe, one show or two shows back, there's this opportunity for healing. We're here not because we come here to remain unwounded. It was last week's show. We come here not to be unscathed, to be wounded and to be scarred and to heal, or rather to heal and to be scarred from that healing. One of the consequences of that is that you gather into your spirit, into your current incarnation, this experience, and it informs the greater you, the spirit you, which is incarnate, and it echoes back through many lifetimes of experience, many eons of experience, and the souls which have been through it multiple times, over and over and over again, spirits rather, incarnating and experiencing this here, find this familiar, this cycle of wounding and healing and scarring reminds them of their previous experiences. And these souls, these incarnations, are here for the purpose of bringing that back and putting it back into practice, because the world always has the wounded. We're all wounded, but there's always the wounded who really need to be brought up to that next level. So the healer, you grow into this role of healer. You come to it through the wounding and the scarring. We understand when somebody has been wounded at a level below their communication. We can see at a psychic or an energy level, I like it better because psychic has all these connotations. You can see at an energy level that this person has been through something, and it engenders a certain trust that I can share my pain because this one will understand. This one has been through it. You have that initial, you particularly have that initial with people.
It's a resonance, I'll say.
Yes, that's it, a resonance.
The resonance of having gone through a heart-shattering pain, and you see someone else who actually has had this, you understand that, no, this is something that I can share. Because normally that frequency scares the living daylights out of people. They will run from something like that. Or they will try to make nice. Or let me help you here. Try to give you quote unquote advice. And they mean well, but it usually comes out sideways.
Right.
Because they just don't know what they're talking about.
Well, let me stop you right there. That's exactly correct. When you find a real healer, you know that they already, at some level, you know that they know what they're talking about. You know it.
Mm-hmm. And you realize if they're standing in front of you and they're not falling to pieces. So, okay, how'd you do that? Help. That's all you hear is help.
Well, that's what I think your experience informs. That's what you hear, but I think the person on the other side sees, or I don't think they see. I think they feel this resonance. I think the word resonance is perfect here. They feel that the resonance is there because internally they're troubled. you as the wounded one are troubled, and you're looking. We're seeking healing. We're seeking help. Sometimes you can, and many times you can heal yourself, but many times you need to find the contact. And you mentioned the current circumstances is harder. So you find this resonance, and almost I've noticed this, and I'll say this from the outside looking in. They're almost driven to unburden themselves in the situations I've noticed with you. They almost can't help themselves. The words come out of their mouths, and they have an odd look on their face, like they're astounded that they're telling this complete stranger this most intimate of thing, and yet they can't stop themselves from doing it. It's not that they're forced to; it's that they're internally compelled by the rightness of it, by the correctness of it. The resonance draws it forth, and it finds a welcoming acceptance as part of this wounded healer. The wounded healer feels, accepts your pain, doesn't have to talk about their own, because the resonance is already established.
Well, just as in sound resonance, you fill the space. It creates space for the other person to be able to open up and unburden themselves. Because when you have that type of pain, you just don't open to everyone. You can feel that there's no space for that to fill.
Exactly right. Again, I don't want to stop you too much, but exactly right. Most people with their pain, they there's a little bit of tendril of probing, and they feel no space. They feel, how are you? Good. Just okay. Let me just walk away quickly because I don't care. I don't want to. It's this. I don't want to. And then you find the one who says, "Okay, I'm here. I have space." Now it's still up to you, the wounded, to agree, but they sense this possibility, this willingness, this openness.
Mm-hmm. And this is what we've spoken about before, about creating space for other people, no matter what it may be, to, what is the word that is being used now in society? To be accepting, to be tolerant. In this particular mode, it means creating space for another person to fill it. Most people don't want to create the space. They believe that being tolerant of another person means that you'll allow them close enough to talk at and not listen to what they're actually saying.
May I give you an object example? When someone says, and we've all experienced this, you say, XYZ happened. And it's sort of a ping. You're saying, I need to talk. Whatever it is, you're saying XYZ happened. And if you get immediately back, oh yeah, that happened to my aunt last month, and her dog died, and blah blah blah, and it's just this. There's no space there at all. It's just right. Enough about you. Let me talk about me.
Yeah. Well, there's a program that got triggered.
Exactly. Instead, the healer says almost nothing. They just say, and you could feel this breath, not breath, but breath, this openness that says, I'm listening to you. And they're almost astounded. Someone's listening to me. They're not just talking back at me like you were just saying.
Mm-hmm. And to allow that. I mean, in conversation, to have true conversation, it means creating space between two people. And if you think about it, just analytically or mathematically, you're not creating any space when you're only you. It's just you. You need 2 points to begin to create space. Oh,
exactly. Yes, to define a volume.
Mm-hmm. So when you understand that you are a living, breathing individual that can create space with another person, and you've been given the mode of conversation as the simplest form, it can be a phenomenal tool to express what is actually happening with you. It has nothing to do with the stories that you tell yourself, and then you begin to retell the stories that you were telling you to other people to validate the story that you put up that this is who I am.
Yes, yes.
It has to do with understanding that in the resonance space, you're just open to now and allowing what's coming in to resonate, to bounce off you, and to have someone who's actually listening to you and understanding what you are trying to communicate is an awesome thing.
Exactly that. So to put it back in the perspective of the wounded healer, the wounds, the scars, open you. In healing, you become opened, and
you mean opening your consciousness?
Yes, well, a wound is an opening. When you say you're wounded, it's parting your flesh in the physical, but in the mental, in the spirit, in the soul, it's truly a wound which in essence opens you up. And in healing, that the you that emerges after the wound is different, is larger, has given different perspective. Okay, this is the wounding creates the opportunity to allow space. It expands you. It divides you and opens you. So once you have this, once this has happened to you, and it's not involuntary, you can shut that down. You still have the ability to push people away and to deny them the space. It isn't that these things are automatically somehow making you into this person who can listen and give space, but they are opportunities. Every one of them is an opportunity to grow. As we mentioned with the last show, we don't come here to be unscathed. We come here to become wounded, to heal, and to grow. In growing, in the process, and it can be over many eons or many lifetimes, but let's say even just in one, in the process, you acquire the skill to open yourself. Then you need to actually do it. But in those courageous individuals, and you're one of them, and don't deny it, you are, you allow this openness to be apparent. And then the opportunity, here's the other thing, you're not going around seeking people to heal. We're not running around, with a giant H on our chest thing. Heal. No. These people appear, and there's a certain synergy or synchronicity. They appear. Let's go back just for a second. I mentioned that we were at this one spot, and the person that we spoke to just appeared. We were just sitting there minding our own business, looking at the scenery, and this person appeared, and it was almost immediately into this very intimate conversation through nothing more than, hi, how are you doing? But it was a hi, how are you doing, like anybody can say, but the openness behind it was immediately filled by this person's need to express themselves. And there's always this tentative, it's always tentative. They say, well, there's a little, I see it, I hear the openness, but maybe it's not really there. They don't trust. You say, try this, just a little, and you go, you give them back something, and they give them a little more, and the neediest of us, and we're all in this condition, you feel that openness, and you almost run into it. You're just like, I'm so hungry. I'm so desperate to speak. And here's someone who will listen. And it's like, they just fall into it. And to the extent that you catch them, because you catch these people, you have to also kind of wound yourself again, because you have to hear their pain and let it resonate with the pain that you're not speaking about, but the resonance is there. Yes, I understand your pain, as your arms open up and not physically, but in essence, hug them with this, open to them and hug them with this acceptance of, yes, you're wounded, you're hurting, I hear you. That's all we're looking for. All of us human beings are looking for. And there's an exchange that starts. And then you stop counting. By the way, the seconds, the minutes, the hour that went by in a flash.
Mm-hmm.
Because the time you enter into a now moment at that moment when you start this healing process. It becomes a now moment. Every moment is no longer counted. The words just go back and forth, but they almost don't matter. They do, but they don't. It's not that you're having this tit for tat. I got a new car. You went to Aruba. No, it's not a conversation. That's just, playing verbal games. A real conversation happens in the now.
And to be able to hold the space is something that people appreciate, because they themselves are hurting so much. And one thing I always see is that an almost disbelief that someone is actually concerned for me.
Yes. Yes.
And I think, just speaking for myself, I find that astonishing.
And in some ways it's sad, because it speaks to the condition of the world, but yet there you are to help them. So there's a joy there too.
Well, my own heart response is, well, of course. What do you mean? I don't understand that. Of course there's always someone there who cares about you.
And there should be, but many times they feel that there wasn't. And whether it's true or not, their hunger is a measure of how distrustful they've become. They almost have to be like a child. Just really, it's comforted and given. Yeah, it's all here. It's yours. You can have it. There's no one taking it. There's no one pushing you away.
No, it's all right.
It's all right.
It's that feeling of, it's really all right for me to say that.
And part of that is, as a wounded healer, they can feel that you're giving freely. That you're giving it freely, that there isn't any strings attached.
No. We're all, this is a basic human condition down here, regardless of whether people acknowledge it or not. Your heart gets broken. It could be abruptly and in large pieces, or it could be bit by bit, worn away, like sand wearing away at a mountainside.
Yes. And you're just tired.
Yeah. But to understand that is part of the human condition, and to make room for that for others.
Yeah. I think part of it is that people don't want to confess. They've been told that they shouldn't confess weakness. But before this is a wonderful topic, and we're going to talk more about it. But let's take a little break. Take a just a little deep breath here. We're going to go back to the studio, and on the back on the other side, we'll talk more about the wounded healer.
Rick Riordan fans, love mythology with plenty of action and humor? Destroyer's Blood is for you. The new fantasy novel by award-winning author Michael Lynes is book 1 of the adventures of Devkalion, the Blood series. Follow Dev and his magic sword betrayer as they are suddenly attacked and forced to return to Olympus to fight in a war they want no part in. The world of men and gods is about to be destroyed by Zeus's ancient foe, and only Dev and Trey can stop him. The conflict never stops, and the amazing twist will have you on the edge of your seat. Act now while the ebook is on sale for only 99 cents. Destroyer's Blood is available on Amazon.com, Barnes & Noble, iTunes, Kobo, and fine e-tailers everywhere. And while you're there, get the free prequel, It's in the Blood, available for a limited time.
There is a Reaper is the story of 5-year-old Christopher Aaron and his life-changing struggle with leukemia. Winner of both the Indie Brag Medallion as well as the reader's favorite silver medal for memoir, There is a Reaper has more than 100 Amazon book reviews and a 5-star rating. It has been described as life-changing, spiritual, a must-read. Just released on Audible and iTunes, this memoir is also available in paperback and on Amazon Kindle for only 99 cents. Get your copy of this life-changing memoir today.
Attention soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines, and coasties. The holiday season is right around the corner. And some of you might be wondering, how am I going to afford to travel back home to visit my loved ones? Have no fear. Holidays for the Heroes is here. Last year, Holidays for the Heroes received donations from patriotic donors, and we were able to send 65 armed service members with a fully paid round-trip ticket and got them home for the holidays. Wait, but what's the catch, you might ask? Buckle your parachute strap. There is no catch and no hidden fees. Just contributions from good old-fashioned Americans who want to help heroes like you and show their appreciation for your service. If you're an active soldier and want to register, or an individual who wants to be a part of that growing group of patriotic donors, please go to www.holidaysfortheheroes.org. That's www.holidaysfortheheroes.org.
The Fat Man Gets Out of Bed is the latest book from Michael Lynes, the award-winning author of There is a Reaper. Featuring 13 original stories, this wide-ranging collection has everything. Forbidden love, gods versus demigods, weird invading aliens, sexy seductive artificial intelligence, and unusual passion between the living and the dead. All set amidst fantastic worlds of pain and loss and boundless joy. From the sublime to the macabre to the bittersweet, The Fat Man Gets Out of Bed will leave you breathless with laughter, brimming with tears, trembling with suspense. Available now on Amazon.com, Google Play, iTunes, Kobo, and fine e-tailers everywhere. The wait is over. First Blood, Book 2 of the Blood series is out. Your favorite bad boy thief Dev is back, and the beautiful and deadly Trey is right there with him. She is sharp, sexy, and full of surprises. Their adventures continue as a new power arises to threaten the world. The heart of creation is under attack, and time is definitely not on their side, as they battle against their enemies' undead hordes. Can they unlock the hidden power that can defeat him, or will his forces draw first blood? Get all 3 installments in the series. Book 0, It's in the Blood. Book 1, Destroyer's Blood, and the new release, Book 2, First Blood, today. Available in ebook and paperback format on Amazon, Kobo, Apple, and most other fine e-tailers.
thanks for joining the ranks of the wonderful people and joining us on The Soul of the Everyman. Let's get back to your hosts, Michael and Margaret Lyons.
Thank you very much, D-Man. The wonderful people. I guess we'll have to take all the wonderful people. We could do a Beatles song and do all the lonely people. We'll take them too. Anyway, welcome back to The Soul of the Everyman. And tonight we're talking about the concept of the wounded healer. And I'm sorry.
No, that just struck something when you said the lonely people.
Yes.
That's why there's so much wounding. Because they actually feel disconnected from life.
Certainly, loneliness is something which can wound you. Certainly, or you can feel isolated in a crowd. You know,
Mm-hmm.
but just so the last half hour we were talking a lot about what the process of life, which in essence turns each one of us. We both fulfill these roles. We fulfill the role of the wounded, and in finding some way to heal, and many times that is something that you do with someone else. That you're helped in your healing. You also acquire the experience in healing from a wound. The scar that's formed, whether it's a physical or a scar of the mental or the soul or that comes onto that is part of you now. It gives you a way of relating that you didn't have before. We all are familiar with people who are full of good advice but have no experience to back it up. When you go and see somebody for a physical ailment, a doctor for a physical ailment, you're more likely to talk to the doctor if she is, looking like she has a lot of experience, she has wisdom. If you're talking to somebody about your particular problem, you want somebody who's done it all before, many times, and understands it all. Well, those opportunities in your own life are when you're wounded and you heal, and now you understand, you gather the experience. So before we go too far, the quote that kind of engendered all this conversation, maybe you'd like to read it, because we always put up this boss quote, and this is a lovely one.
Ah, okay. Wounded healers. They are not born, and they are not made. They create themselves through conquering adversity, trial and error, extreme pain and suffering. They conquer fear and find a way to speak their truth, even when they are afraid. In doing so, they shine light for others who are lost and feeling alone. And in return, their inner light ignites with renewed purpose greater than they ever could have imagined.
And it's exactly what we've been talking about. And I'll say that you, particularly, of people that I know, you exemplify it better than anyone else I have ever met. No, don't deny it, because it's just undeniable. No, it's true. I don't want to make light of it. To the extent that your personal spark, your incarnate spark here, brought with it experience from the past. Let's just say the oldness of your soul. We all have a certain burden that we bring into incarnation with us, burden or a depth of experience. But each life, each incarnation is an opportunity to expand upon that. You have your own traumas as you come into this existence. Those things remind you or scar you again in a similar way, but they remind you of the experiences that you have in the past, and you bring those in. In becoming a wounded healer, part of it is channeling the grace which is required to heal, and then using it to expand yourself and give yourself the openness, the experience which speaks at a level below that of verbal, of the words. When you meet another, as this quote says, you have a renewed purpose, a purpose beyond your own imagining, because you aren't looking for people to heal, nor are they looking for you to heal them, not you specifically or particularly. They're wounded and walking through a perhaps a lonely place, and they see a light, as figuratively, a poem. There's a light in the darkness, a space which they can then connect back and heal through another who has the experience, who has the willingness to open and to allow them to, to see further, not be only about the current wounding or the current trouble, to open themselves and heal, because you say, well, this one, who is just like me, as far as human to human is concerned, went through something very similar and can help me by just listening to my, connecting with my current need, feeding me some of that energy which they used, which they were able to access to get past their trouble.
Sometimes people need a space to release what it is that they've been holding.
Yes.
And it has to be a safe space.
Yes.
Because people want to believe that how do I say this? They believe a safe space means that you're away from all the things that threaten you. And it has nothing to do with it. A safe space is a place where you can actually let go.
Yes.
Of what it is that has been burdening you.
Yes.
And really let go. It means that you're speaking of it and not dragging it back so you can hang on to it again to say that this is what's hurting me and that's who I am, and I've got to drag that back because that's still who I am. When you release it, you realize you're more than that thing that you're hanging on to. You're so much more. And the space allows for you to release it completely. When you release it, you realize that you're open to receive a lot more light and grace to help heal what it was that was wounding you.
It's such a great point. Can I just sit here for just a moment? That space that you're talking about is, the wounding, the thing that is troubling you is, as people say, a burden that you are carrying, and maybe you are identifying yourself by the burden. I am this trouble. And you come to a space and somebody says, lay down your burden right here and stand straight and take a deep breath and just completely relax and realize that it's not you that is this burden, that you are carrying a trouble. And I will let you set it down. And that's the relief. And just for a moment, I needed a moment to breathe. Mm-hmm. I needed a moment to just realize that I can lay this down. Mm-hmm. Even if I have to take it up again, you in that moment, you receive grace, you receive strength. Mm-hmm. And then when you pick it up again, it's lighter. People even say that for sharing a burden, it becomes lighter. Mm-hmm. Even when you talk to somebody, the language is, I unburdened myself to you. And in some ways, even though you pick up the trouble again, it's lighter. It's like the sky is lightened. My burden is not me. I will someday be able to lay it down entirely. Even though this moment wasn't that moment, it was a moment when I could say, yeah, I can see past this just for this moment. And sometimes that's all people need. They need a breather.
Mm-hmm. Place and a time to take a breath and come back to yourself. Mm. Is when you're carrying a burden, that's all you're thinking of is the burden.
And the isolation. Mm-hmm. No one else has the troubles that I have. That lie.
Right. when you find another that has the troubles that you have,
has the ability
to understand and comprehend completely the burden that you are carrying, you realize, no, I'm not alone. In fact, I never was alone.
Right.
Because that's the trouble of, or the blinding that happens. You become deaf, dumb, and blind when you're only focused on your burden.
Yes.
And your spirit knows that this is not true, but your soul's carrying the weight of the event that's happening, and it's heavy for you, or horrifying for you. But it can be released, because that emotion needs to have the space to process through it. You are not the emotion, but you are able to walk through it.
Right. And I think the other thing you said is very important, is when somebody realizes that not only can I set this down, that I was never alone. The blinding of it is because when you carry the burden, it's all you can see. It's like the mountain is right in front. Your nose is on the rock. You can't see anything. You put the rock down, and then you say, "There's a whole world here, and this is just a rock, and I'm going to be able to get rid of it someday." But it was blinding. It was like I felt like I could never put this down, that I could never get past it. Right. And then somebody says, "My friend, sit for a moment. Lay down your burdens. I'll share them for a moment, even if it's just the sharing of listening, which is really all that really is required, the sharing of listening." You mentioned this last half hour. All the good advice in the world is really just not listening. It's just talking at and pushing away, and, "Oh, that's your burden. Let me put a little bit more on your burden. Oh, it's terrible, it's terrible, it's terrible, it's terrible." It's like, meanwhile, it's crushing me. And instead the person just says, "Tell me about it. I'm listening. Put it down for a second, and we'll push it away, and it'll sit there in the corner, and we'll just talk about it. Oh, it's terrible. It won't let me alone. Oh, it's just, I know entirely. It just won't let you alone. Don't worry, it'll go away." And this is the, you put yourself in a different space where the burden is not you anymore, and then you realize that it never was me. That it was always this.
And the key to understanding when a person is able to hear you is they never use the word I.
Yeah.
They allow you to fill the space.
Yeah.
The other person doesn't fill the space, just holds it.
Yes.
And that is the whole reason why it becomes safe. Because it doesn't get hijacked.
In holding the space, I think what I've seen you do is you open the space up and you say, "Yeah, I'm going to accept you and your burden and give you enough space to put it down." Instead of crushing you with, "Don't ever put it down. No, it's yours, 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 yours. Stick. And here's some more stuff to carry while you're at it." You hold that space and give them room to breathe, and give them room to be seen and listened to as another human being on the planet, and almost say to them without saying it, because you don't say, "Oh yeah, that happened to me." That's shutting them down. You just listen, you listen, you listen. And then maybe at a certain point in the conversation, when they've caught their breath and they'll say, "Well, I've seen this on these people when they're talking to you. They're like, how do you," and they're really saying, how are you able to do this in so many words? And then you might say, "Well, I lost a child," or you just let them know that this happened to me. And they almost feel like, and you can see it going across their faces, like, "I'm telling this person about this little thing, and they had this incredibly horrible thing happen, and why?" And you're like, "I don't care. The space is still yours. The stage is still yours." And somehow that, it almost diminishes, it almost melts their burden a little bit, and they say, "I can carry this. If this person could carry that and still hold space for me, I can carry this. This thing isn't that bad." I mean, it's not comparing it. It just gives them this kind of it gives them perspective. It puts them one more step up on the mountain, the spiral mountain that we're all climbing. Puts you one more step up on the mountain and say, "Oh, okay, I see. It's just another step."
And the encouragement of you can do it.
That's what you say to children all the time, and if you're wise, you say it to yourself all the time. You can do it. You can do it.
Yes, you can.
Yeah.
But it's allowing for that, and which I think is the greatest gift you can give to anybody, because it means that you are willing to be a witness to their life.
Yes.
And that, I honestly don't know of a greater gift than that.
And the interesting thing, the important thing there is you're a witness to their life, but you're not trying to take over their life.
No.
You're not trying to tell them how to live their life.
No.
You're validating. The witness is a validation. It says you're worth hearing. Your story is valuable. Your experience, your life is precious and valuable, and I'm willing to open a space and connect with you. And yeah, we both got troubles, but right now I'm opening a space for you. Someday, in another circumstance, someone may open a space for me. This is people say pay it forward or all this other stuff. Well, that's a trite way of putting it, but we all do these services for each other down here.
Just as you begin to realize that you are not isolated, and you actually have the ability to give a great gift to another human being. And truthfully, when you ask your heart, do I do this? Do I want to do it? And your heart's like, yeah, of course. What's wrong with you?
Hearts, the interesting thing about hearts, if you ask them questions which they know the answer, they're like, of course. The mind will be like, oh, no, stuff could happen. And you're like, shut up. But if you ask the heart.
Yeah, no, the mind will give you 1,001 reasons to debate it. And that has nothing to do with the actual experience, because you take it out of that moment, that bleeding moment, and you see what's there, and your heart opens. Do you respond to that heart opening? Because you have a split second to make that decision.
I mean, we've talked about in the past, not recently, but about the difference between compassion and sympathy. And sympathy is of the mind, of the ego. Oh, it sucks to be you. It's basically what sympathy says in so many words.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's terrible. It sucks to be you, and I'm moving on. And sympathy is, well, it's well-meaning, but it's trite. It isn't even food. It's just a picture. Like,
well, see, the interesting thing I find about that is a person's language and the way they communicate speaks volumes. Their vocabulary, if it's vast, it usually indicates that they actually understand what they're saying. It's not pablum. It's not automatic. It's not, what's the word?
Rote.
It's just you're automatically, this happened. Oh well, da.
Yeah, so
the well-worn path of vocal sympathies comes out, or stories that you think are going to help this person.
Right.
Because there's a classification in the back of your head that, well, I say this when this happens. So when you've had the experience where your heart's been broken and you've had to heal from it, and you do have the scar, your vocabulary widens tremendously, depth and breadth and height, so that when you speak words, the other person actually receives the amount of openness that your words create. They realize you really do have a depth of meaning that I need to communicate through this word. You understand that pain, heartfelt pain, is not like a minor thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's the difference between pulp fiction and poetry.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but maybe that's just not. It's an opening, and through words, and I think even wordlessly, you can open and listen. It's a as you said before, it's a resonance, and the things which can convey the resonance are your attitude, are your words, are your openness. It's just the sometimes nothing more than a welcoming silence. You know,
it usually is a welcoming silence, and you, as the person that listens, you do not fill the space, but allow the other person to.
Yes, and I think we've filled our space.
Oh.
So we're gonna give you a welcoming silence now, and I'm Michael Lyons,
and I'm Margaret, and thank you for listening.